What's up, everybody? Welcome on Into One Soccer today. Annie Petrillo, Oliver Platt, Jordan Wilson. It's serious business, guys, today when I have the pen out. I have the pen out. I've been taking notes. Okay, I've been writing things down because it's
Can't
going
wait
to
to
be a
hear
big
them.
show. Are you ready? Oh, well, there's not. Really, I'm just talking about Canada. We'll be back in action October 15th, as we know, guys. And what's really
Yeah.
exciting is that the 26 player roster was released. These are just some of my notes that I've taken note of because it's very interesting. We know that Jesse Marsh seems to be a man of his word, and he said he's going to call in younger players, guys. He says he wants to see what Canada has. It's all about preparing for 2026. 17 of the 26 players who have been called in are 25 years of age or younger. Max Crepeau and Jonathan Osorio in their 30s are suddenly like old men on the team, or as we like to
Yep.
say, the veterans. But we know that they do have that big match coming up. And yes, it's a friendly against Panama on October 15th. That'll be at BMO Field. But really, it does have implications when it comes to the quarterfinal draw in Nations League rankings as well. So, yeah, it's a friendly, but this matters. We're pretty excited. Canada ranked 38th, by the way, in FIFA rankings, Panama 37th. Jesse Marsh met with the media, and out of a lot of things that he said, we're going to obviously hone in on certain players here, Ollie, but I don't know if there was just something in general that he said that maybe caught your attention.
Well, I think it was more not so much what he said, but what he's been able to accomplish in terms of this roster selection, which is for one game and not the most glamorous game with respect to Panama compared to the games they played in the previous window. He's got the commitment of all of his healthy top players, right? Alfonso Davies is coming, Jonathan David is coming, Stefan Eustachio, Kyle Larin. All of these guys are going to show up for an extended training period, really, in Montreal before that game in Toronto. So that to me was firstly a good sign that kind of the atmosphere around this group is in a good place, and maybe back where it was in the lead up to Qatar, where you felt the same kind of commitment and enthusiasm from these guys about playing for Canada. And then the second thing that I think is positive and the right thing to do in this particular window is what you mentioned, Andy, which is to give a lot of young players an opportunity to come in and kind of compare themselves and test themselves with those top players that I just mentioned. And I think in international football, it's easy at times to maybe, kick it down the road a little bit of, we'll blood some young players later. We'll get the opportunity when it's the right time. And sometimes that right time never comes. And, months fly by and you're in tournaments and it's difficult to integrate young players. So this is definitely the right time to do it. And I think it's going to be a good opportunity to see the likes of Lopez, Knight Labelle, Poku, Nico Seeger's back, Luc de Fougerolles, lots of guys who I think have prospects for 2026.
Jordo.
Big name players coming in, as Ollie already alluded to. And I think that just goes to show what Marsh is doing. When you start a new job and you're on time, your haircut's clean, your clothes are pressed. This is Marsh right now. And what I like is he's already reached the period where you can slack off a little bit, where you feel comfortable. You could go with your honorary Canadian card. And he's still delivering. His clothes are still pressed. He's still looking after the group. Everyone knows you have to go and broaden that player pool. And you're not obviously going to go play all 20 or all the new players that are coming in. You can't play 26. What you can do is get to know them, bring them in, test them, give them homework for what they need to do at the other club as well. So I like the approach. I like that they'll be in Montreal as well. I like that everything that needed to happen with Marsh coming in with the squad and challenging the players and also bringing in new names and maybe looking on the rock for those hidden gems. He's doing that. You have the commitment of the biggest players as well, and that just leads the group. But now these young players have to step up as well. I think this is just a huge opportunity for them.
Yeah, and it's not like I said it before, he's saying all the right things, but he's following through. We also know that October 9th, they're going to have that training camp in Montreal. They're going to be, visiting youth academy schools, having people come in, meet the players, everything. He says this is the people's team. And he's standing by that. We already know that when they came back from Copa America, they had that big meet and greet with fans as well. Like he wants to be accessible to fans. He wants the players to be accessible to to the fans as well. And he, again, you can only do that if you stay true to your word. And if he said he's going to bring young players in, he's bringing the young players in, getting them that kind of experience. So it's all fantastic. But when you bring new people in, guys, that usually means other people are left out. And sometimes those people have been around for a long time and they are household names and they have been relied upon. So noticeable absences, some people still talking only about Sam Piet is not there. But I think a big one is Kamal Miller. What do you make of those absences?
Well, I think Miller is the surprising one, and he's just a player who hasn't really seemed to, you know, I don't know whether he hasn't clicked under Jesse Marsh or there's not quite the fit there that there was under John Herdman. Obviously, a big part of that has been Derek Cornelius's play and the way he's come in and just made himself an undisputed starter. But when you look beyond Bombito and Cornelius, like if one of those guys was to get hurt, I think it's a very open question right now as to who would play in replacement for them, right? And in this squad, you've got Joel Wartzman, who's still hanging around, has been named in a few squads, and we know is a good player when he gets the opportunity. But then beyond that, you've got two teenagers in DeFugero and Knight LaBelle as your other two centre-back options. So it seems to be a very open question as to who is that kind of third choice centre-back and who would come in, particularly on the left side if Cornelius came down, which has obviously naturally been Miller's spot. And the fact that Miller has been left out of the squads, maybe there's a little bit of an aspect of leaving him with Portland, who are in the midst of a playoff race, but everyone else being called up, that kind of does seem like maybe he's on the outside looking in right now in Jesse Marsh's mind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's two ways to look at the Miller situation. One hand is Jesse Marsh knows what he has in a player and knows that if he's going to play a big match, that he's going to bring him in and he's going to be a backup left-sided center back. Or the other part, which when you're looking at recent games, and you could say if you're looking at the squad that maybe Miller has fallen out of favor, maybe nothing on his own, maybe just prefers Cornelius. So there's been big matches that Canada has played back to back, and Cornelius, Bombito, that high press that they play, maybe it doesn't suit Miller, or maybe Marsh isn't really I want to say happy with the way that he's approached the game, but he just prefers someone better. Or there are young players he really wants to see, and he's saying, this spot is up for grabs. I think either way, when you look at before, I thought Miller, even going into the World Cup qualifying, he was a mainstay. He was a guy that always played. There's something still there, but as a player, you have to go and morph yourself sometimes, immerse yourself, and do the things that your manager would want you to do and play the way that they want to play. I think with someone like Piet, quickly, is just, you're going to play this type of system. You need wheels. You need to be active. You need to be able to run and press and do a lot of work. And I think Marsh just wants to see other players that maybe have those qualities that are a little bit more keen than Piet is.
Well, let's talk about one of those young players who got called in, his first call-up with the national team. Kwasi Poku has been quite the story here. Almost an argument. I don't know. Maybe we'll talk about it later. I mean, a guy who's left the CPL, but yet is he still in the running for Players Playa? I don't know.
Yeah, of course. All the words, man.
He set a record fee for moving on from the CPL. He's playing in Belgium in the second division there, but he gets his first call up here, Ollie, with the national team, 21 years of age. I mean, do you like, how good are you feeling about this? Is this like a CPL to national team success story in the making?
I hope so. Like he's obviously got some way to go to make this a regular thing, and I think that should be the hope, because he's that talented. But he certainly fits now in that category of players that I mentioned earlier, as young, promising players playing at a decent level, whether it's in Europe or domestically, who are worth taking a look at in the senior setup. Like that's the thing about Kwasi Poku, is I don't think this is just like some feel good story. We all saw it when he was playing for Forge, and he's already showing it in Belgium. This guy has a lot of quality. He did things that seem to come very, very naturally for him at that centre forward position that I think other players take years to really get a handle of, with his movement, his feel for the penalty area and where he needs to be, the timing of his runs, and also the quality of some of his finishes, like just these little touches in and around the 6-yard box. Really subtle stuff that in going for precision instead of power, and really showing his technical quality as well as his ability to get in those positions. So he's an exciting player. I'm excited that he's got his call up. I think it nearly happens in the September window, but they wanted to let him get settled in Belgium. And yeah, he's definitely worth a look again with that eye to the 2026 World Cup.
Get a player in. 21, he's young, he's agile, he's mobile, he can play different spots. I think any player would say that you're never a finished product, but especially when you're young and you've had certain coaching as well, you want to go and really get your hands on Poku early. For me, I think it's a success story already. I don't think he needs to play, just having that environment and training and be able to fight for a spot and rubbing shoulders with players that you normally watch. I think that's already a win for him. So big things coming for Kwasi Poku.
Yeah, just really excited. And, we kind of had a feeling this would just be the trajectory of his career, given what's been going on. It can be a little whirlwind for a player. So sometimes mentally, emotionally, they just need to settle in. So really excited to just see how he'll respond in camp. We know that Jonathan David is going to be, he is entering on form here, guys, getting the game-winning PK against Real Madrid. I know a lot of fans obviously expecting Jesse Marsh to maybe alter certain things a little bit here now with the formation that he's playing to just really unleash Jonathan David to see what he could do out on the pitch. Here's the thing. Here's my little segue. Canada ranked 38th. Canada has now leapfrogged over the United States in CONCACAF rankings as well, second, behind Mexico and first. Toronto, one of the hosts for the 2026 World Cup. I'm saying all these things because that means you are going to be under the spotlight. You are going to be scrutinized. Every little thing now matters, and that includes pitch condition. We're going to get into Toronto FC in our MLS chat in just a moment. But one of the things from last night's game that really stood out at BMO Field, which is where the team's going to be playing the national team on October 15th, never mind looking ahead to 2026 World Cup. Right now, on October 15th, they're going to be playing a game against Panama, and the pitch, gentlemen, isn't good enough. And we can't be hypocrites, right? We can't sit here and when Canada goes and plays, in Jamaica or Honduras or some of these other places and go, that pitch is absolutely horrible. I didn't expect Alfonso Davis, right? Like, at some point, we have to be the man in the mirror. We have to look at ourselves. We have to point the finger and go, like, that's not good enough. I mean, Ollie, just when you looked at it, were you like, what is going on?
Yeah, it looks terrible. And like we were told all of these problems would be solved when they put that hybrid surface down a few years ago, which cost a lot of money. And it's like a bit of synthetic mixed with natural grass and was supposed to hold the pitch together better. And you just wonder what's going on. And like, I don't know, that for years there's been people who have said, like, the problem is the Argos, right? The problem is that football is being played on our soccer pitch, us being TFC fans. And like, there's always been this counter narrative of, no, it's not the Argos, it's like weather and all of these different things, and all of these excuses are made. And it's just becoming very difficult to look at that pitch and not agree with those fans who say, like, the football team is the Canadian football team is the problem here. Like, the bad parts of the pitch are right down the middle where the defensive and offensive line stands and digs into the turf. And then a bit down the sideline where the players or the rest of the players stand on the sideline where the benches are during those CFL games. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, and maybe there's still other factors at play here, but it's very difficult to believe at this point that it's not the fact that the stadium is being shared with the Argos that is the issue. So I don't know what's left to do about that. Now you've put down this incredibly expensive surface that still doesn't seem to be getting the job done.
Oh, you're not wrong. That is the issue. That is the issue. Plain and simple.
A lot of people who still deny it.
Look, starting the match as well for TFC, also had the ball, played it back to Sean Johnson. And I will make the noise of what the ball was doing. Went, woo, boom, 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 boom. Like, it was drum like.
It just made me snort.
Chills. It was a whole. It was a drum solo, and I was like, I can feel coming in the air. Like, then John Johnson picked it up and kicked it. I said, oh, this is a match for me. This is where the ball's up in the air, that lands, tackles, runs on your face. I said, what's going on? What's happening? Yeah. Anyways, next question.
It's not good enough. When I was watching the game last night, and let's get to it, TFC, like, it was to the point where I thought there was something wrong with my TV. I'm like, what's going on? What is the balance off? Like, why is the grass shiny? Like, what's happening? And then I realized it was the pitch, because on the broadcast, they started to zoom in on it to show, because it even caught the broadcast attention. Like, what is going on here? So let's get into some MLS talk here. Toronto FC, that was a big loss for them last night against New York Red Bulls at home. 4-1 was the final. Now, they caught a little bit of luck, and that Philly, the Union, lost last night. DC United won, though. But what I mean by a little bit of luck is they could have easily been completely out of the playoff picture at the end of the night. But right now they're hanging on to ninth. CF Montreal, though, did win. They leap over them. We'll get into that in just a moment. But I mean, before we have our comments, let's hear what John Herdman had to say after the 4-1 loss.
Not good enough. No excuses. Just not good enough. Not good enough tactically. Not good enough with the setup. And not good enough on the pitch. It wasn't until the second half I think the team really started to show up. We needed to go a goal down before we woke up. It was almost like we were sleepwalking. I think even as a tactical staff, just not being able to find the solutions as well. Like, we got to own this, the whole group. This isn't a player thing. This is a coaching staff, too passive. And it was a team that were too passive in a game that we had to be strong in. We had to have personality, we had to have character, we had to fight. We needed all of that, and it just wasn't there. It wasn't there.
And the fighting was done, and not in the right way, in that, Bernadeschi picks up a second yellow. So he gets a red card in the game. He's going to miss the game against Miami on the weekend. Ollie, are they unraveling? Are we seeing TFC unraveling before our very eyes here?
Seems like it. But look, credit to John Herdman for saying it's not just a player thing and taking some responsibility. But I'll disagree. It is a player thing. But the squad just isn't good enough at the end of the day. And you're yet again looking at a match where one designated player doesn't play because he's injured again, and the other one gets sent off. So I don't know how many more times we have to keep going over this, and how many more times we have to see this before, hopefully, at the end of the season, hopefully not too long now, the people in charge of this club realize that, at this point, Lorenzo Insigne is a sunk cost and they need to move on. So they can either pay him all the money they owe him to continue to play for TFC and carry on this nightmare, one of the worst signings the worst signing in MLS history for another 2 seasons, and it's still going to cost them a lot of money, or they can just cut it loose now, and it's going to be an ugly payoff that they have to give him, but at least it's done. And like I said, you're going to have to pay him one way or the other anyway. So that's what it feels like this is coming up to for me. That's what I think has to change at the end of this season, regardless of whether they sneak in the playoffs or not. This team as constructed just doesn't have it.
Yeah, I've spoken before about when I played in Denver, get a sports psychologist come and he would talk to us about a window. He always make us go like this and be like, you have to stay in the window. So the one part of the side is not caring enough, not preparing enough, not getting enough sleep, whatever. The other part is wanting it too bad, and you're basically playing outside of yourself. You're not doing the things that you normally would do to really contribute to the group. I've seen Bernadeschi. I know he loses it and capitulates and horse collar grabs when he's on a yellow and kicks the ball. Jermaine O'Neal, Indiana Pacers style, kicks the ball up in the air. But that for me is a player that's burnt out and losing it. And he has to lose it, or he does lose it, because his team is imbalanced. It's still coming back to that, right? You have to, yeah. He's dribbling all across the field. He's trying to do the most. He's trying to do it himself and do all these things for a team that is just a bit weak. Things need to change. A TFC, the fans that showed up there last night, and you get 4 by Red Bulls, and all the contention that was there in the stands, and also is there at the end, trying to just calm things down with fans. It's not working. And the biggest reason is just because there aren't enough committed players, and the team is imbalanced. Things have to change. Different
story, Jordo, obviously, when it comes to Montreal. They're undefeated in 5. They come off a victory last night as well over Atlanta. Martinez gets the double. They're in a playoff spot now. How good are you feeling about Montreal?
I just like that they're peaking, they're getting things together all at the right time, right? Like, you could have dips within a season, but when it comes to this time right now, where it starts to get colder, if you're up north, it starts to be those matches where it's just about grit and grind. You could see that Montreal, they're doing that, right? And they're playing. And for me, this is kind of still a rebuilt team, but you have a player like that, Martinez, who's in form. You know that you can stay in game. So I like CF Montreal. I like that they're playing. Are they going to go and win the MLS Cup? No. But could they make a deep run in playoffs? I think they could.
That's the thing. Just quickly, Andy, sorry. I'm happy to see how well they're doing. They don't need to be under any illusions, though. If they make the playoffs, they still need to get quite a bit better here. It's great that they're getting hot. Martinez is playing well. Clark's playing well. This is a team, though, I still think has quite a long way to go.
Loss for Vancouver Whitecaps, though, Ollie, last night, 3-0 to Seattle. So they stay in that 7th spot, which, if you look at their history against LAFC, they want to move out of that 7th spot, because right now it looks like they could be facing them in the playoffs. What do you make of that result?
They look tired. They just don't look like the team that we're used to seeing in terms of the energy and the pressing and the ability to take a game to their opponent. So I don't know if that's some of the injuries that the group is struggling with. I don't know if that's just a consequence of having to play midweek last week and then again this week. Obviously, with the game at the weekend as well, they just have to hope that they can get through this weekend, get a full week's rest in their legs, and that the team that we're used to seeing at its best can return to form in time for the playoffs, because they don't look at it right now.
All right, that's the MLS update. Let's turn our attention to CPL, because we know that things are heating up for that 5th and final spot. But in particular, when it comes to Forge, guys, if they pull off the victory this weekend, they will officially clinch the Shield and claim that first top spot. How about this? I just want to have a little bit of fun first with Forge. Why? I guess maybe is it more of like, give me cases why they will, give me case why they won't do this on the weekend. Who wants to take what? Or maybe you want to take both.
Come on, Jordan.
I can.
What are you gonna do? The won't?
I think Forge are gonna clinch this weekend, but I don't think they're gonna beat Valor. I think if you ask Forge fans, a team that they don't want to play is Valor FC. The place that they don't want to play is in Winnipeg at Princess Auto Stadium. They don't want to play there. And I think, knowing that they've already done the work, and it's basically, obviously, there's the mathematicians out there and people that say it's not over till it's over. It's over. It's been over for a while.
We're talking mathematically, though.
But mathematically, it's not done, but it will be this weekend. I think Valor are going to take points from Forge. I'm not there to say that they're going to beat them yet. I'm not there, but I think either they're going to get a point, Valor's rolling, or they're going to beat them. But I think Atletico Ottawa are losing to York. And I think it's going to be in the bag for Forge.
Okay. How are you feeling here, Ollie?
Well, Valor's been tough to beat. Like, they haven't won enough games, Valor, obviously, until Monday, was it? But they have been very tough to beat, so I'm inclined to agree with Jordan there. But I have a feeling Atletico Ottawa might go to York and get a win this weekend, so I'm going to keep it alive for another weekend.
Ooh.
So you guys...
But they'll win it. They'll win it back in Hamilton. I'm not ready to...
So, Jordan, you're making the statement they will claim it this weekend, but through some shenanigans.
But not through a win.
But not through a win. Not shenanigans. That kind of sounds like something sneaky's going on. And Ollie, you're saying it's going to be another week.
I'm saying give it another week, yeah.
Give it another week. What do you make of this race for fifth? Like, when you're looking at what needs to happen this weekend here, Jordan, what needs to happen with this chasing pack, this bottom pack of the standings here?
I think simply we'll just say no ties. Someone go out and win, get the 3 points. The ties just every week, just that's it.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll save it for next week. But I think Pacific playing Calgary, that's a big one. If they can sneak some points, that's gonna be a big match. Halifax, I believe play Vancouver FC. Like, can we get a winner in this one? No ties. Show that you want it. Specifically for me, for Vancouver FC, who I backed, and you reminded me on One Nation. Like, looking at this team, I thought they were going to score goals the most. And that is probably the craziest thing I've said since I've joined the right side with you guys. They've just dried up. They need to go out and win. I think you're playing Halifax. You know what's on the line with 3 games left. That is a big match for me.
Mm-hmm.
See, I think Vancouver would settle for a point this weekend. I think that they are going to try and grind and limp their way into the playoffs, just getting points wherever they can get them. They're not in form right now. Yeah, and hope that no one else really catches form. Halifax is the one for me that they got to win this weekend. Home game against Vancouver, that has to be 3 points.
All right, guys, I kind of teased it a little bit. Some people might think it's absolute nonsense or might be like, you're onto something. I mean, would you still have Poku as a leader when it comes to CPL Player of the Year? Or is that just like a ridiculous take by me? And do you have somebody else?
It's not a ridiculous take. It's not ridiculous. However, the award that he should get, and I will say this, I know it's supposed to be anonymous. I don't care. Find me. What I would vote for is U21 Player of the Year. He embodies what it means to be U21 Player of the Year. MVP, there's an argument to be made that if he stayed in the league, would he be in the race for MVP? Absolutely. But I think with the 8 goals that he scored over like 2.5 months and players that also stepped up and played really well, he wouldn't be my pick for that. But he should have an award, and I will accept it on his behalf. And I will send that to Belgium. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'll let him know. I'll FaceTime him while I accept his award.
Because, like, I guess we're going to have the conversation of, like, what are the minimum amount of games that you have had to have played to be considered for an award, right?
Yeah. I know, funny story. Last season I played, 2022, when Mo Babuli came. I think he played 10 games. And people were saying, and he was exceptional for us. And people were saying, and I was saying as a teammate of his, because he just changed everything for us, having someone that could put the ball in the net and go forward. And he was like, he played 10 games, and everyone was like, we would have picked him if he played 15. Like, you have to kind of do over half.
So a little over half of the season. Okay.
But I still think you have to be, if you're MVP contention, you have to be like north of 23, 24 games. But
Poku played 17 out of 20.
Okay, he's there.
Like, it's
he's
a
there.
decent number. But for me, the player of the year is Tristan Borges. I don't think it's difficult this year. I think he's been the best player in the league from pretty much start to finish.
Okay, good little debate though. I do like your U21 shout though. Do like that one for sure.
Yeah, that one's ugly.
All right, guys, let's get to our Visa Women's Soccer Report. So the Women's Champions Cup is currently in the group stage. And just this week, the Vancouver Whitecaps Elite, they hosted San Diego Wave. Kaylin Sheridan, as we know, the goalkeeper for Canada, plays for San Diego. And it was a loss for the home side. It was a loss for Vancouver, 2-0, but valiant effort by them. Better part of an hour. They held off the NWSL side, which we know is stacked with some great players there. Next up for them in the group stage for Vancouver will be the Portland Thorns. That will be on October 15th. Amateur side here, Ollie, once again, we have this conversation again on the men's side of the Canadian Championship, where you have a lot of these League One teams taking on CPL and MLS sides. And here you have, Vancouver Elite going up against some pretty experienced and, quite frankly, championship caliber franchises in the NWSL.
I'm impressed. Like these are the types of games where you think they have the potential to be 10-0. Like it's a senior team and one of the best team on the continent against a youth team, basically. So to get through, I think it was 59 minutes goalless, and to lose this game by 2 goals. Obviously, it was one-way traffic. Like you can look at the stats; it's complete dominance from San Diego, but they made them work for it to a much greater extent than I think a lot of people would have expected or given them credit for. Players like Jaden Shaw in the starting lineup, like top players. So. Really impressive effort, and now obviously coming up is the big one against Portland and hopefully Christine Sinclair at BC Place.
It's experience. Like nothing beats that. Like when you're playing and you're playing against players that are better, get paid more, are in that professional environment, it starts to make you think and have you feel like you could do that. I know it's a one-off game, but it's the preparation that goes into it, putting yourself in those situations. Playing players that are similar age and similar level of you, that is not the way to get increased. It's the same with boxing. You want to box against someone, if you put your hands down for a second, they're going to punish you, right? This is why I never box, because there's always someone better and I don't want to get knocked out. But the metaphor, the analogy that I'm using, you want to play against the best that you can play for. And I guarantee you right now, there are players on Vancouver that are believing, hey, I can do this. I can make this a living. Or better yet, people have watched this game, and this is the best way to market. It's not about training and CVs. It's about actually saying, hey, I shut down this player for 60 minutes. Or, there's a bit of a glimmer in this player. And that's what this opportunity in this tournament brings. So it's beautiful to see it happen full circle for Canadians.
Yeah, and this is, again, it's been, 3 years now, but we're starting to see more of this kind of development with that League One interprovincial tournament and more things at stake and being able to win it and moving on and being able to compete in these types of tournaments. The Vancouver FC Girls Elite, they are the champions of 2024. So we're really starting to see some grassroots of tournaments that then mean qualification into other big things, really starting to take place and set root in Canada. So pretty excited about that. It really, really is. TonyBet Top Picks is next. Let's go quickly through these. We have CPL, MLS, and EPL odds. You got York, Atletico, Ottawa. Jordo?
It'd be a typical Jordan Wilson thing to do. Yes, I'm speaking of myself in the third person, to pick Atletico Ottawa to win when I said York early in the show. But I'm not going to do that. Gotcha. It's going to be York. York's winning this one. Taking 3 points.
Ollie?
Yeah, I'm going to go Atletico. I would hope that they wouldn't have been the favorites and you'd get a bit more value than plus 129, but I got to stick with them.
MLS, Whitecaps, Minnesota. Ollie?
Let's go with the Whitecaps need this one. They've got themselves in a little bit of trouble in terms of that playoff positioning. So let's go for a bounce back Whitecaps win at home. -1.
At -114, you have to. Yeah. Got to do it.
You're going that route too?
Yeah, me too. Yeah. If I had money, yeah. Yeah. Put your money down for me, Jules.
Yeah.
For me.
I love playing make-believe betting. Premier League, Aston Villa, Manchester United.
Oh, for KJ, I'm going to say Aston Villa. United aren't really good right now.
Come down game for Villa. They just beat Bayern. This is a come down game. United.
Yeah,
I can see it now.
There you go.
1-0 against Bayern.
You've been caught up, my friend, on One Soccer Today. Jordo, Ollie, Andy, thanks for tuning in.